There seems to be a near universally agreed upon phenomena among avid readers where they seem to struggle more and more as they grow up to sink as deeply as they once did into the books they love and enjoy. This causes an overall reduction in the dopamine that reading can bring you and can be widely destructive towards reading habits as a whole. I'm not crazy, right? We all know that feeling where someone touches your shoulder to make you stop reading and it's almost like being pulled from a nap, but you were just that into the story. We all know, yeah, I know you do. I'm confident every reader's had those books where you just disappear from the world. It brings the greatest level of enjoyment and also is where your memories of a book can transcend beyond reading and instead just become the story itself. I have no idea where I was when I read the climactic battles of Lightbringer, yet I can recall the story like a movie that plays out in my head because I was damn sure to be fully in the material before I went through and experienced what Pierce Brown had to offer there. There have been times where someone's tried to get my attention and I'm so into a book, when they touch me or call my name, whatever it is, I'm almost filled with anger, rage, because they're depriving me of an emotional experience that is a flow, right? You're going through a scene that is so well written, the words so smooth, that all of it comes together as this experience that seems to somehow hit senses you didn't know a book could. And then there's someone, hey Daniel, and it's just gone. It's just flies away, and whether or not you'll be able to get it back for that specific scene. There's a reason if you're one of these people who's not an avid reader watching this video out of curiosity, there's a reason when you call someone who's in the middle of a book, they don't just, oh yeah, or look mildly annoyed and sometimes look traumatized. I swear to God, every single time this happens to me, I feel like a dinosaur's corpse getting pulled out of little Brea tar pits with how deep the story has stuck to my skull, tickling the joy sectors directly. There is no greater feeling than when you are completely sunken into a book. So I'm going to try and help you get there faster. Fortunately, I have made an entire career up to this point out of trying to make reading for myself as enjoyable as possible, and I have learned some things that I would love to share with you almost as a counterpiece to a video I once made that was entirely dedicated to just reading as much as possible and becoming a more content creator-like reader, which I think is actually contributing to the problem as well. Let's get into it. We are in a day and age where books are treated like any other kind of content, and we are in a world that is filled to the brim with the most algorithm-driven, stimulating content known to man. It is unreal how overstimulated our brains have become. And this means throughout our days, we are given less opportunities to, one, sit down and read, because the draw to your phone and the infinite doom scroll is always the more quote-unquote stimulating thing to do, whether or not it has any substance to it. And this makes us less likely to pick up our current read in the middle of the day and bang out a chapter and spend some time ruminating on it, permeating our brains with the ideas present in the text. And that's horrible. I actually think this kind of assimilation of books into the wider field of content as a whole has changed reading habits on a major way on the mass scale. A book is not just about getting through the story, it is about the artistic experience, the emotions, the reflection it can provide to you. And a ton of modern commentary seems geared towards making you forget that, and instead trying to make reading a book series equivalent to binging a show. Which, no disrespect to television, but I find to be horribly reductive to what reading as a hobby can be. It wasn't just because we were kids that we actually felt like we got deeper into our books. It was the fact that we actually gave them the time throughout our days to make them a more regular part of our thinking patterns. And once we put down the book, we weren't immediately drowning out whatever ideas we absorbed from the material with twits, fucks, and insta sticks, which reduces the overall stickiness of the material we are consuming when it enters our mind palaces, or whatever you want to call it. Consider this. Think about your favorite book you read when you were a kid, the one that you just continually got lost in to the point where it felt like you were down a well, and someone interrupting your reading just sent you into a fit of rage because you were totally immersed. You don't even have a memory necessarily of reading it, but you remember the scenes playing out in your head like a movie because you were totally lost in it. That happened for reasons. That wasn't just, oh, you were young, so you had a more active imagination, and instead, I bet you were reading that book all the goddamn time. I bet it wasn't just hours at the end of the day, but throughout your day, whenever you had 15, 20 minutes, you were sitting down, cracking it open, and diving into it. You see, I fully believe the ability to just get into that zone, that state of mind where reading is almost happening autonomically, you turn pages without thought, is a muscle. And the more you work it, the easier it is to slip deeper into it. And there are a few strategies you can do to help yourself get more in the habit of engaging with the material you are reading. And in my opinion, while it could in the short term ask more of you up front, in the long term, it'll make even reading books you end up not liking, I did not mean to pick this one up as an example, I'm loving that book, a more enjoyable experience. So, first of all, I want to tell everyone here right now to read throughout your day. If you're in a waiting room, have a few minutes between meetings, whenever you would instinctually pick up your phone and start opening an app where an algorithm's gonna try and piss you off, don't. I promise you the FOMO that those apps make you feel for not opening them is false. It's created by a market to try and convince you you need to be on there because your time is now their currency. And instead, pick it up, get into your book again, and even if you end up rereading the same pages a few times, well, one, okay, the material's now just more clearly in your head, and two, throughout your day, you'll have more time, thinking space to consider the ideas, to feel the emotions that were actually attempted to be put in this art. We have rewired ourselves to crave constant stimulation, and as a result, books which cannot be as stimulating as a flashing fucking rectangle in your hand do not stick like they should. And this simple change will make your overall reading experience stay with you far longer. I know we're covering basics right now, but stick with me here. I'm trying to lay the groundwork to explore why so many of us are aware of these problems, yet rarely actually affect change in our habits. I fully believe it's because FOMO for our brains tends to be a stronger driver than actual sustenance. What do I mean by that? Well, throughout our lives, history, however you want to frame it, typically, if we were taking something stimulating in, there was, in general, usually some form of purpose to it. Now, the entertainment space is flooded with
who's faster, a cheetah or one of the fastest cars?
Other things, and that perfectly designed media to be algorithmically as stimulating as possible constantly pushes this idea in your head that if you do not engage with it, you are somehow missing out, right? Oh, I didn't see the biggest viral thing today and I got sent it by friends, so I missed out and now I'm not a part of... Is it gonna matter at all in a week? No. So what I'm going to try and more engage your logical mind with is the idea that what you should truly fear of missing out on is long-term growth. Boiling all of this down and stating it simply, we are in the most flush time of entertainment ever. Nearly any genre, concept, or idea you can get media built around in a couple of clicks, which means I think we have a tremendous opportunity suddenly available to us as consumers. The opportunity to be picky, and I think that's a really good thing. Right now, you probably, as much as it sucks to admit, don't control exactly what you're consuming throughout the day. It's driven by algorithms and pushed on you. And I think all we have to do, and it's rather simple once you put in the minor effort for it, is take the control back of what you decide to engage with. And I'm not trying to be a total purist, delete TikTok and never look at a YouTube short, but instead, I'm just saying, yeah, okay, I'm gonna choose to watch a couple, stop, takes a minor amount of self-control, and then choose to engage with something that actually requires you to do so. And on top of that, at the end of consuming it, will reward you with such a richer experience that you won't forget in 5 minutes, and instead can be something you actually maybe immerse yourself in a little bit. And if you get in the habit and practice of doing that, you will find that no, your imagination hasn't corroded with age. You've just been stuffing your brain with slop that algorithms have been jamming in as furiously as they can so that ad revenue can be sent my way, to be frank. I'm working against myself a little bit, but that's just the choice part that I think you should take advantage of. Be picky. From here, I can actually recommend simple things you can do to even make the reading experience as you change these practices all the more rich and even somewhat social. The fucking supercar beat the cheetah, obviously. Duh. And no matter how great a book is, it's not going to be as stimulating as a flashing light in your face on your phone, tailor-made from an algorithm to be as appealing as possible, even though it lacks sustenance. And I think we need to change our mental diets. And this is a part of it. The more you read, the more you focus on reading and slip it in your day, like you did as a kid as your parents were arguing about their divorce in the background. You'll be able to take back that habit we all lost in our youth, not because we outgrew it, but because the world changed. And suddenly we weren't prioritizing making mental space for a book and sinking into it, regardless of what was happening around us. You can slip into that zone on your feed real fast, can't you? I want you to be able to do that just as quickly with this. Not this specific one, but one like it. And that actually is going to take me to you as just an average, everyday, casual fan reader should not try and read like a booktuber, kind of dismissing the entire initial premise of that original video. Here's a dirty little secret I'll let you in on. BookTube has an incredibly high burnout rate. I've tried over the years to stay in touch with new and rising booktubers, but after a certain point, I realized that I had to wait a while to see if people would stick around before I reached out a hand to help them, because more often than not, they ended up just getting exhausted of reading as a whole, making videos, all that on top of it. But it changes your relationship with books if you start mandating how much you have to read every week. And so while I already advise booktubers to not try and force themselves to read more than they naturally would otherwise, especially if you aren't having to make content around it, do not try to emulate content creators. And fortunately, I don't think I have to say this to most people. I am specifically talking to people who subscribe to many booktubers and feel the need to compare themselves to them. It's an absurd thing to do. I know in the day and age of social media, we are constantly encouraged to compare ourselves to others online, but comparison is the thief of joy. And I know I'm stating the obvious right now. Oh, gee, Daniel, it's so revolutionary to tell me to be on my phone less. I'm making this point to get to my next one, and it's actually something I try to avoid using as a framing device typically, but I actually think really applies here, and that's generational change. I'm 30. I am among the last generation that existed before we had constant internet access everywhere all the time. And there are a ton of new young readers who do not have the advantage that my age and older do of being able to simply rewire our brains back to the way it once was, because they have grown up in a world where this mentality towards books and everything has just been there since birth. I cannot stress how different it felt just having a lazy Saturday afternoon before the internet was in our home in a easy, consumable, algorithm-driven way. Yeah, you would spend far more time reading a book, considering it, etc. Now, fortunately, I think the internet has also given us equal opportunities to actually assist consuming books in a more engaging, interactive way. But the first piece of advice I'm going to give in this really direct how to make sure the book is staying in your brain as well as it possibly can isn't to do with the internet at all. And instead, it's going to be something that a lot of people, because of academia, are turned off from even considering doing. And I'm telling you, not only will it make you a better reader, but it will make reading even a bad book more fun. Whether it is in the book or in a notebook, take notes on what you are reading. There are people who want to keep their books, these pristine, perfect, beautiful things. Stop it. I get it looks good on a shelf, but one, it's not going to be something you resell someday or goes up in value 99.9999999% of the time, more than 50% of the time, even if it's a special edition. And on top of that, let's say you're giving the book to a friend. You're passing it down to a loved one. Do you think they'd rather get a book from you that's in perfect condition or possibly have the awesome experience of reading a book you've taken notes in? They can take notes in it too. You pass it back and forth and oh my God, it suddenly becomes this great bonding. I encourage people I lend books to write in them. It is such a great way to share a reading experience. So if you just start writing in your books now, not only are you going to be doing a far better, more thorough job of consuming the material, you're also going to be able to go back and see your predictions, thoughts, and pontificating about the book reframed as you continue to move through the narrative. It's fun to be able to see where you were proven right or called something. And it's also fun for if you give it to someone else or read a book simultaneously with someone, chapter to chapter. You read two, pass it, they read the last one you did, then another, and you pass it back and forth, exchanging notes. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite things to do with someone, and unfortunately I've not had the time to do it in a long time. This is an arc. I actually maybe could sell this for a value someday. I never would because they asked me not to, but I'm still going to write in this arc because one, it'll make me have more insightful thoughts about the book, which is also an additional advantage of taking notes in your reading experience. But on top of that, it'll make the book itself also feel more like it belongs to you and not just something that's decorating a shelf. And I know that's ironic coming from the bookshelf roast guy. I know note-taking has all of this baggage for people because they were forced to do it in high school or college. And so you view note-taking as something that is burdensome, a chore. But if you're taking notes on something in a style of your choosing for your own benefit, I promise you, you will enjoy even books you dislike more. Some people are going to bounce off that idea so hard, so fast, because it's going to slow down how fast they're consuming books. Why do you care about the quantity of books you're reading? That is such a horrid mentality, in my opinion. And it's as basic as the first one I made in this video, but so amplified by modern social media, and it pisses me off a little bit because it's this consumerist need to own every book and have them all, when that's not the sole purpose of this hobby in any way, shape, or form. I mean this in no way, shape, or form as a shot at other booktubers or talkers. If you want to do your book hauls, that's fine. I personally don't. They just don't have an appeal for me. But this is beyond the simple overconsumption that we are all guilty of to an extent. And I do believe it bleeds into affecting our reading habits. Journey before destination is such a true fact of life. And I believe even more powerfully so than usual when it comes to taking in a story. If I meet someone who read one book last year, but they took enough notes to craft a whole essay, I would rather talk to them than a booktuber who consumes 60 and can barely remember 20 because they binged it all like it was a Netflix show. Don't get me wrong, if that's your preferred style and it gets your jollies off, great. The base premise of this video is how to make you enjoy reading more. And when you boil down the typical love of this hobby of just being a voracious reader, I think most of us would be called, it comes down to wanting to learn, feel, immerse ourselves in a story, have our imaginations blown away. And once you realize that is the source of so much passion for reading and orient your habits with the hobby to amplify those sources of joy instead of smothering them, it becomes far more sustainable and something that you just will not feel burnout from because you're going at the pace that your passion demands. Those sources of joy are what exercise that muscle that brings us so deep into these stories, right? And once you, I would say, declutter your mind, pull out so many of the things that our society tries to shove in there to keep you distracted, not from just ruminating on a good story, then you will find yourself just sitting even on public transport, maybe with just headphones on to black out noise, and able to plunge back into a book in just a couple minutes. And once you start changing your whole mentality towards consuming books, and it's not about getting 50 done this year, and instead it's about making sure you squeeze every last drop out of every story you can, then I got an itch that was so bad it ended my train of thought. Then I don't care about your age. I think you'll be shocked how much more a story will be able to consume you once again. Turns out my imagination's perfectly intact and healthy. It just needed room to breathe in my head. And so I'm going to end this video with a call to action. I challenge you as readers to pick up a book that has gotten some hype and praise that you've heard about recently that isn't something you typically read. Maybe it's a genre you've dismissed, an author you tried once but were bounced off from, maybe even the size of a book. I know people out there who are just hardcore not interested in novellas. And then pick it up, put a pin with that book, put them both in your go bag or pocket, whatever, and get through it like I have asked you to. Find a friend, tell them to read it with you, and make it a way for you two to grow closer. Even if you detest that book, you will look back at the experience of reading it fondly. And that's how you increase your enjoyment of the hobby of reading. Like and subscribe if you have not already. Please let me know your thoughts on how you have increased your enjoyment of consuming material. And no, this is just my opinion. You can absolutely be someone who likes to just sprint through books as much as possible. And if that's your maximum dopamine brain trigger, great. I encourage you to keep on keeping on. This video is for people who maybe have been a bit shaky, a bit burned out, but don't want to lose that love of a hobby that has been so important to them for so freaking long. Have a good one, y'all. Bye.